Good morning, Bardstown and Nelson County, and welcome to Bradford Brooks. Jim Brooks and Margie Bradford with you this beautiful Wednesday morning in downtown Bardstown. Good morning, Margie.
Good morning, Jim.
Well, we had a beautiful sunny morning this morning, but it was a little deceptive. When I walked out on my back porch, I thought to myself, I probably should have brought a jacket.
Well, what did Self say back?
Self said, well, you're not that smart sometimes. So, yeah, you should have.
Well, I can report a similar reaction. Yes, I mean, the sunshine out there, it just makes you think, oh, lovely day. Mm-hmm. And so you put on a light jacket, then you go out and wish you had a heavier jacket.
Well, I had today's garbage day at home, so I had to kind of get the blood stirring and kind of warm myself up dealing with several bags.
Well, you should do like me and put it out the night before.
Do something in advance, are you kidding?
Well, actually, I do it because I'm trying to keep the critters out of my garbage. I mean, they're a clever little kid. I won't say what I have said before, so, I'll keep it clean here. But they get in there and chew everything up. These raccoons, I mean, they're that's a heavy garbage lid, and they climb my steps and stick their little paws in there and pull it up and get in and chew everything up and then get back out again.
Well, we have a mud room, and so that's where that's our staging point for our garbage.
Staging point.
And then, because I'm not going to let it sit outside because we have a plethora of wildlife.
You've got critters too, huh?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so, but anyway, well, that work is done. And I, did I do it the night before? Well, you have to remember you're talking to a man here.
Oh,
my brain doesn't think
that is true. I had forgotten that.
And in fact, I'd kind of hoped my wife had taken it with her when she left earlier in the morning. But I hope against hope. And I knew it was going to be waiting for me. So took care of it. You
are a man, therefore it is your duty to take care of the garbage.
Well, it always has been, except when my son is there to delegate to.
Well, we all know it's some kids' duties when they're there.
That's right. Well, enough about...
barring that, it's your duty.
That's right. Well, enough about garbage duty and the brisk weather this morning, Margie. Well, I'll let you, we have a very special studio guest with us, very happy to have her. And Margie, I'll let you make the introduction.
Yes, well, we're happy to have with us today Melanie Reid, who is the new program director for the Catholic Charities, who have taken over the St. Vincent de Paul and the food pantry. So Melanie, I know, and we've had some extensive conversations back in the kitchen, so this is a lot of things that I think they'll be surprising to people. But tell us about yourself, that you've come home.
I have come home. Yes, ma'am.
Come home to this area.
Well, thank you guys so much for having me. Yes, I'm the new program director at St. Vincent de Paul and Bread for Life Food Pantry here in Bardstown. And so I am originally from Holy Cross. Moved away as a young child and it was all over. Kind of grew up in Chicago area, moved back, worked for the railroad for a bit, and that took me to Virginia. And then for the last about 2 decades, I lived in Virginia and got a wild hair one day and told my husband, hey, let's look into foster care. And just thought, hey, let's go to this class. And ended up adopting 12 kids, long story short. Took into numerous foster children, but ended up adopting 12 children of my own. And through that process, shifted my whole career from railroad and legal to human services. Decided at that point I was going to go back to school, got a master's in social work, and opened a nonprofit to just love on foster and adoptive parents. And so spent about 13 years running Matthew's Child, a nonprofit there in Virginia, just really pouring into children and families. And through COVID, then made a shift to Housing Authority in Roanoke and was Director of Community Support there, just loving families and people. And what can we do to make people self-sufficient and happy and productive in life. And so then I decided it was time to move home. As my mom got older, I am so happy to be back in Kentucky and back in my own friends, neighbors, and family around. So here I am.
Your experience almost built your resume to make you a perfect candidate to come back and to lead St. Vincent de Paul. I mean, you've got so much experience in human services, and I think all the outreach you've done to support foster families and foster kids, that's kind of one of those below the radar needs, I think, in every community. And I think that's fantastic.
Thank you.
The work you've done is just fantastic, and I think that. And I don't think there's not a need anywhere for more support, especially for kids who are waiting for foster families.
Well, I think the support just in all of our towns is families as a whole, right? Mm-hmm. And so when this opportunity was presented to me with St. Vincent de Paul, as Catholic Charities was, going to take over this ministry, mm-hmm. As it has just grown. It has operated for 33 years, just loving and supporting Nelson County, and mm-hmm. the need has grown. And so with that, this food pantry, the thrift store, and the client services, emergency mm-hmm. services programs have just grown with that need. Mm-hmm. And so I'm so happy to be here and to be on board. And it took a lot of meetings, a lot of time, a lot of prayer to know this is exactly where God called me to be. So I am so happy to be back and hit the ground running and learn from the team that has been keeping this ministry running for 33 years.
Now, I have to ask you, this is the country person in me. Is your last name R-E-E-D or R-E-I-D?
R-E-I-D.
Oh, okay. That's my wife's maiden name's R-E-I-D.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, we have this conversation off the air. I'm sure we're related.
No doubt. If you go back far enough.
Well, in your adoptions, I think you talked about the need for transitioning needs of children who are transitioning out of foster care and into adulthood, and the need for helping them along the way. And I think you've shown that in your adoption. Am I not correct?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think back to even when I was in college, there was no magic age that made me an adult, right? So
right.
When I turned 18, I can't tell you how many times I called my mom, like, hey, Mom, can you send me a little money? Hey, Mom, can you, sometimes you're just homesick. Even now, I moved home to be close to my mother. As she's gotten older and had some medical things, I was ready to just be close to my mom again. Yeah. And I'm way grown. We don't have to talk about how old. But that relationship is still important. And so I found that through my adoptions, those kids didn't magically become an adult.
Right,
so several of my adoptions were at an older age. My oldest was 18 when I adopted her. She didn't need a caretaker, but she needed a family. And so yeah, that's awesome. Kind of what my heart was. So, now I've shifted that focus here at St. Vincent de Paul of how can I pour into our families in this community, because families need support and help, whether they're adopted, foster, biological,
right.
Whatever that family unit looks like, it still needs support and love.
And, sometimes I think as we go throughout our daily lives, the hustle and bustle, we forget, that I think most of us are one major financial crisis away from really being in needing help, and sometimes it's easier not to think about that and just keep on keeping on, But there's and it can be a medical emergency. It can be lots of different, inputs that cause stress in a family and need. And I know St. Vincent de Paul has a long history locally of meeting the needs, meeting people where they're at. And I think that, it was heartening to me to see in the record that Catholic Charities was getting involved, because I know how large the operation has been with St. Joe, and part of me is in the back of my mind. Of course, I grew up at St. Joe, wondering how long they could sustain the growth of all the volunteers that are needed. I mean, of course you want volunteers, but, at what point can the need for services outstrip the number of people? And I think that with Catholic Charities, with those resources, I think that it really points the whole mission in a positive direction, for continued growth and expansion. But St. Vincent's been a true blessing to our community for the 33 years.
Yeah, it is.
And I will say everything is still local. While we are so grateful to have Catholic Charities, and of course Catholic Charities brought me on board, and we kind of came on board with St. Vincent de Paul at the same time. They're handling some of that back end stuff, insurance, HR things, and it frees us up and frees up, my team to really be that boots on the ground and to really roll our sleeves up and get involved and work better, like you said, meet more of a need in our community, because that need is growing. And we are run almost exclusively. We do have a small paid staff, but our volunteers make the world go round, right? This ministry, whether it's from the store, from the second that donation, and thank you community for your donations to the store, we will take them. If you use it in your home, we'll sell it in the store. From the second that donation comes in the back, and those volunteers are going through them, sorting them, getting them ready for the floor, to checking people out, to when that family has a need, making sure that babies are clothed and needs are met. Our volunteers do it. At the food pantry, our volunteers are primarily the ones running those meals from the heart meals, pre-prepared, easy to prepare meals for homebound folks, and taking people around the food pantry to shop and get their groceries. So,
for donations, is there a certain time that people can donate, or can they donate, just bring stuff anytime, or what?
We absolutely love if you bring stuff when we're open. Those donations, if they sit out in the weather, we end up having to toss them, and we don't want to donate to the dump. We want to, be able to donate to the community, and everything from the store, all proceeds go right back into the community. So we love if you bring those donations while we're open, from 9:30 to 5.
But there's no certain time.
No, ma'am. Anytime, as long as we're open. 9:30 to 5, Monday through Friday.
Well, okay.
Well, I will tell you, several years ago, one summer, my son had his summer job had ended, and he said, "Well, I want to volunteer somewhere." And so he, out of the blue, he just stopped by St. Vincent, and I think he worked harder during the weeks he volunteered, because he's an 18-year-old and got a nice strong back.
Oh, we probably used that. We took full advantage, I'm sure.
Yeah. But it was, I will tell you, it was the most satisfying unpaid or volunteer job I think he's ever had, because he still talks about how much he loved, he was needed and enjoyed helping people.
And that impact is, you do just as much internally as you're doing externally. And what you're doing externally by volunteering is insurmountable.
Yeah, and I think, just his personal development, that changed him in a very positive way, and so he still carries that with him, that experience. So that's so.
He's welcome back anytime. We'll use his strong back. I have Christmas stuff to move down. It's about that time of year.
Well, I will tell you, we've when he's been home for short periods of time, he's mentioned it more than once about how much he enjoyed that. It was a lot of work. Of course, you got a nice young buck who's good and strong. That's what you need him for. So.
Well, tell him thank you for his service. We appreciate it.
Well, he may, if he comes home and doesn't land a job very quick next summer, well,
he may be back.
He may be back.
Say Dad volunteered him to volunteer.
Actually, he would not. He wouldn't mind.
Yeah.
He wouldn't mind at all. He'd be happy to come back.
I know that that St. Vincent's, helps the unhoused and the food insecure people. Tell us a little bit about that. How does that work? And as a you work as sort of a clearinghouse of services for people.
Well, we want to make sure that if you show up on our doorstep and you have a need, that we're going to find someone who can meet it. If we cannot meet it, we're going to connect you with a community partner that can. And so I have learned in my 3 short months here and getting to know this community and getting to know this ministry that we are seen as kind of a beacon of hope and of light. And if you have a need, call St. Vincent de Paul, right? And so if we can meet it, we're going to. But if it's especially, we work very closely with Bethany Haven and with Room in the Inn, which is the emergency shelter. We provide a space above the store for them to utilize, as do many of the churches in the area, and we kind of all work as a team to make sure that those needs are met and that everybody has a safe place to lay their head at night. Obviously, we're going to handle the food and security. We're going to put clothes on your babies. We're going to make sure that your lights stay on if there's an emergency situation. Hear me, we're not out there paying your electric bill, but if there is an emergency need, we're going to make sure that children are safe and families are safe and housed. If there is a need that we may not offer the resource for, we're going to connect you with who does. We've rented out part of our building, to Stepworks, which offers medical care, substance abuse recovery, mental health support, and so they take clients, walk in. They do not care if you have insurance or not. They're going to find a way to help you and work with you. So we also, we just work closely with everybody else in the community of how can we help this person get help.
I noticed that you all do addiction support as well. I mean, helping people who are addicted.
Stepworks does that, which we've rented that office space.
That's part of the Stepworks.
Yes, ma'am. I do not want to. I don't want to take away from the experts who know that field so well. So I will connect those people that need that service with our partners right there in the same building, but make sure they get the care they need. 100%.
Now, as far as the store, and this is probably common sense, are there? I'm sure as the seasons change, the need for donations of different types also change. We don't, with November just around the corner, we're no longer wanting beach balls and sand shovels, What sort of, are there any particular needs that, and I'm sure there's some needs that don't change, they're the same year round. But can you give us a little insight on what, if people are doing like my wife and I usually do every, this time before Thanksgiving, we start looking at what can we get rid of in time for Christmas entertaining.
Right. Good time to clear house.
That's right.
Absolutely, winter coats. Always winter coats. As I know it's an easy answer to say monetary donations, but at this time of year, especially some of our elderly neighbors need heating assistance and need, whether it's space heaters, we've got to make sure that, sometimes we forget about certain people in our society, and it seems like we have people who are forgotten quite often, and they're living without heat and they're living without running water, and so we're going to fix that if we at all can. But that takes money to do. So absolutely, we'll take your monetary donation anytime. But coats right now, hygiene products are huge, and we are anticipating as we go into the holidays, there's obviously going to be more of a food need, and we want to make sure that everybody has food on their table. So we'll always take that as well.
Now, when it comes to food donations, where should those, is there a different drop-off location?
So you can donate those directly at the food pantry, which has moved and is now at 1065 Bloomfield Road. It's directly across from Nelson County High School. Kind of share a parking lot there with the Circle K. And so you can take those donations directly there. You can also bring them to the store, and our teams work so closely together. We just we move donations from one to the other. If you've dropped off something intended for the store, Lauren and her team will make sure it gets over there. And if you bring food...
This is the food pantry?
Yes, ma'am. And if you bring food over to the thrift store, Luke and his team are going to get it over to Lauren for her to get it on the shelves. So.
Awesome. Let's see, well, we need to take a quick commercial break. You're listening to Bradford Brooks and our very special guest, Melanie Reid, who is I don't have your exact title,
Program Director.
Program Director at St. Vincent de Paul Ministries, which is formerly a ministry of St. Joe, but still staffed by local volunteers who God bless them for the service to the community. All the work that they do to make St. Vincent the wonderful part of our community that it really is. So anyway, we'll be back in just a moment with more of our interview with Ms. Reid, so stay tuned. All right, welcome back to Bradford Brooks. Jim Brooks and Margie Bradford will be with you till the top of the hour. And we're broadcasting live from the Colton Steakhouse and Grill Studio. And the Colton's is opened today, 10:30 a.m. to 9 p.m., and they're a great place for lunch. It's just my own personal plug. In fact, my wife and brother and sister-in-law, we often meet there, and it's about time for another meeting, Benny. So if you're listening, send me a text and let's get it set up. All right, our very special studio guest is Melanie Reid, R-E-I-D, for those of us who matter, who care, a native of Holy Cross, and she has basically come home and is the new director of the St. Vincent de Paul Ministries here, which is now associated with Catholic Charities. And I'm sure that association sounds like it's going to enable your volunteers to be more efficient by removing some of the managerial stuff from their plate and allowing people to focus on the mission.
Absolutely, and that's what we want to do, be able to focus on loving our neighbors. So yeah, they've taken a lot of that admin stuff, freed up quite a bit of my time to roll my sleeves up as well, so it's good.
You were talking earlier about, the food pantry, and here you're talking about maybe expanding mobile services?
So we do have a mobile food pantry. Our mobile food pantry tries to hit most of our rural communities here in Nelson County so that we can bring that service to maybe people that have a transportation barrier and can't make it to the pantry. I will say, obviously, the selection at the large pantry is quite a bit more, but that mobile food pantry is stocked, and fresh produce and meat and shelf-stable things are obviously all provided there. We have added Boston back to our schedule, so let me do a quick little, I'll tell you when it is so you can make sure that Boston knows when we're coming. But we have, we try to make sure that we can reach people where they are.
Sure.
Talk quietly amongst yourselves while I'm looking.
All right.
I will find that in 2 seconds. I just had it. Bear with me, y'all. I'm still getting my sea legs, so to speak, being new. Okay, Boston will be on the second Wednesday of each month from 9:30 to 11, right across from the community center. So November 12th is when they will be there next.
Okay, right before Thanksgiving.
Good.
Now,
yes.
Just one question: are there income guidelines that people who the food pantry serves will need to meet or to qualify to use the stop in at the food pantry?
So yes, we do kind of assess the need, but that being said, Jim, nobody's going to leave there hungry. We're going to make sure bellies are full, and things happen in your life, like you said. We're all one, situation away from being in a crisis moment. Right, phone call could come in, right now while we're on the air, that could drastically change all of our lives. And so it could be something as simple as you got a flat tire, and not that happened to me once on 2 vehicles at the same time, and so that's a significant amount of money that maybe you're not prepared for. So if you come into the pantry and you have a need, we're going to find a way to meet it.
Awesome.
Yeah, do you have any special plans for like Thanksgiving?
So we do. Especially with our current government shutdown, I know there's a lot of questions that people have about benefits and that kind of thing. And so we have tried to be proactive. Lauren and her team over at the pantry are prepared. We've got extra food on the shelves and doors open, and we are ready to make sure that everybody's table has food on it. So we do kind of put together a little Thanksgiving box. And for some of our homebound elderly disabled, we're going to take pre-prepared Thanksgiving meals. So if that's something you'd be interested in or feel like you need to be on that list, feel free to call the pantry and we'll get you on that distribution list for Thanksgiving.
And what about volunteer adhering? I'm sure there are no shortage of ways to volunteer. As I've mentioned earlier, my son was a volunteer at the store, and but I'm sure there's other opportunities. for volunteering and being a part of this ministry?
If you have a talent, we're going to use it. And sometimes that talent is simply a smile. Sometimes that talent is being able to accept those donations in. Maybe it's client facing and you're working with people directly. Maybe it's just that you can offer us a skill behind the scenes. If you are interested in volunteering, we would love to have you. And I'll say I was talking to a personal friend, but also a colleague that runs our long-term care program for Catholic Charities. And she said what she loves about Nelson County Volunteers is that it is so close. People want to volunteer because that was maybe their third grade teacher, or that's their neighbor, or that was their mom's best friend growing up. And so they are helping people that they know personally in some situations. And so it kind of gives it a little more of a heart tug. And so I will say, because this is such a tight-knit community, I can almost promise you, as you know, Jim, we were joking that maybe your wife and I are related. If you're volunteering for St. Vincent de Paul, you are touching somebody's life that you probably know, even if you don't notice it in the moment.
Oh, well, you know, my wife's a physical therapist in long-term care, and of course she lived in both Marion and Nelson County growing up, and so she's got a base of people, that teachers she knew and people in the community. And so if she works anywhere in this area, undoubtedly she will connect with someone they know, one of her patients know, and just making that connection is a big part, I think, of especially when you're a medical professional.
Yeah.
And making people comfortable, and so that's been you know, she had to move a couple of times back and forth from Marion to Nelson, and that was kind of traumatizing for her as a young girl. But that has paid off, you know, later in her career, because she has such a larger community of contacts.
And she's met people.
Yeah, and so, you know, she. In fact, she was doing physical therapy with her third grade teacher recently. And the funny thing was, the teacher recognized my wife before my wife recognized the teacher.
Wow.
That's
pretty
unusual.
rare. Yeah.
So that anyway, they had a very happy reunion, and so that but that's been a story my wife's enjoyed telling, with the permission of the patient, of course. Right. But anyway, that's she enjoys that, just connecting with people on that front, and I think you're right. I think being able to connect with the people that the community where you're volunteering is huge. And I think that's a lot of why people want to do it. They want to help their friends and neighbors.
Right.
Well, that's one of the strengths, I think, of Bardstown and Nelson County, really, because it's always been such a family-oriented community.
It is unparalleled. Like you said, Miss Margie, I have lived in a lot of places, and that connection and tight-knit community I've not seen anywhere like I've seen here.
Right.
It is absolutely beautiful.
You know, you can't walk down the street in Bardstown without people saying hello, or nodding and good morning, or how are you? And a lot of places you don't do that.
You know, people look down, they don't make eye contact. It's
right.
different.
No, when my son lived in New York, I went to visit him, and of course I'm walking down the street Bardstown style. Hi, how are you? Yeah. And he immediately shut me down, because he said people take that as being aggressive.
Really?
Yeah, you avoid eye contact, and you keep your eye on the walk down the street and don't look at people or say hello.
Just earlier this week, my supervisor from Catholic Charities had come down from Louisville to Bardstown, and we had gone to lunch somewhere, and she's just fabulous. She's the best style, and she had, you know, her cute green on and her tights, and there was a couple that they were racing each other to see which one could get to us first to compliment my shoes and her outfit. And it was just so welcoming and sweet, and you know wanted to know, were we from Bardstown? Obviously, tourist industry has really taken off here in Bardstown since when I was a kid, and so, you know, are you from here? You know, had that whole, but it was absolutely so friendly and welcoming. But they raced each other.
That's pretty cute.
Well, the one question, you have adopted 12.
I have.
How many are still at home?
So I have 4 that are still minors. I have 2 that are intellectually disabled, and so they will require care.
Right.
My 20-year-old son, is still at home and has his own space, but, with some oversight.
Sure.
So I have a few still at home. And then very first kiddo I ever adopted is Nakia is now 27, and she has made me a Mimi. And so I have 2 beautiful grandchildren, and she is just a beautiful mother. And success looks different for kids in foster care and adoption, across the board. For 12 of them, it's all different. And for Nakia, it's the fact that she is the best mom I've ever seen. And she didn't have that growing up. So I got her at 11.
Well, she had to learn it somewhere, didn't she?
Well, I got her at 11,
Yes.
and I'll say she's a phenomenal cook, and she definitely didn't learn that from me. So I'll give her credit. She's picked that skill up on her own.
Well, in talking about the adoption of teenage children or almost teenage children, that really is a huge need, I would think, because that's, as you said, you don't just immediately hit an age and you're grown.
Right.
But there's no mechanism, or there's no there's no proven way that the state can help in that way.
Well, I will say I think
they're just on their own. If I'm understanding correctly.
Yeah, and I think it is hard for kids that are transitioning at 18, whether that's in a natural home or it's, through foster care or adoption.
Right.
Transitioning into adulthood is hard, and
Well,
like
sure
we said,
it
you're not magically an adult, right? And so what support and services do you have? Thankfully, I grew up that I had that at home, and I had a mom and dad that, yes, my mom would get frustrated. I know she did. When I'd call her from college, I'm like, Mom, will you send me $20? And, back in 2003, that was a lot of money. $20 went pretty far, but thankfully she was there to support me and my dad over my little things that I thought were catastrophic, that were so minor looking back, to those big things when I really needed support. And so for a lot of my kids, when I chose to adopt them at an older age, it was because that's what they needed. Right. They simply needed that care package. College, they needed to hear I love you. They needed a place to come home at Christmas.
Right. And someone to talk to if you need to.
Absolutely.
I mean, to ask questions of how do I do this, how do I do that. We as a society really haven't developed any organized way of helping with that transition, or it seems to me that way.
Well, and that's why our community has to come together to support each other, right? It takes a village. I have a 19-year-old right now that we're working on learning how to budget, and we're working on, how to interview for a job. And it seems so simple to say, oh, well, just go get a job. Yeah. But if you don't have a home to write down on that application, and you don't have clothes to wear to that interview, and you don't know how to do that interview, it's awful hard to go get a job. And so working through a lot of those minor skills and getting rid of those other barriers that are in place in order to become gainfully employed, a lot of people forget that piece or don't see that big picture piece of there's so many other barriers to getting a job than just filling out an application.
Right.
Well, I think even with with our kids, now our daughter was involved in theater in high school, and I don't know, she had no problem talking and interviewing. I mean, it was just a natural. Our son was 180 degrees the opposite, and we still coach him a little bit. Of course, he's on his second bachelor's degree, which he'll finish up this year. But he's on the autism spectrum, and he's got. It's funny because over the years he's learned he considers it almost his superpower. Yeah. It's not a handicap.
Not one bit. No, my 20-year-old is autistic.
But people,
he's
you have to understand,
smart.
He sees things so different.
Yeah.
So I've come to really respect that. But it comes to an interview, there are certain benchmarks you have to be able to hit, and so anyway, we work with him on that, and but of course in the fields he's interested in. I mean, they make jokes about his other friends are on the spectrum too. In IT, it's just kind of a field that seems to, at least at Western, seems to draw people who
plays to their
individually
strengths.
Gifted.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But anyway, but still, we're still supporting him, and really, want him to have the best opportunities for success. And so that's what our support is now. And sometimes life can be overwhelming, and he calls and says, "Dad, I need to talk to you." And that's all I do is listen, and that's what he needs. So, you know, he's a pretty amazing young man. He really is. And but you know, it's you know, I never realized what parenting really was, and how awesome it can really be, and how you know, how much you help shape a life. You know, even if I'm not doing anything active, if I'm just listening, you know, that's support for your child too.
Yeah, it is. It absolutely is.
But anyway, and we're hoping he will. You know, I keep telling him I want you to get a BA and then an MA and a PhD, but more importantly, a JOB at the end of the day.
Well, but just being able to make A's in physics does not necessarily equate into a job.
Translate.
No, he always liked my joke though about his degree in physics is that the degree in theoretical physics is that the jobs in theoretical physics in Kentucky
are
largely theoretical.
Theoretically.
But I'll tell you, he's in IT now, but he was commiserating recently that, you know, well, that was wasted time, and I'm like, no, you've got a great degree, and that experience means more than you can ever understand. You know, going through the college experience and all that, and I said, you know, and so I have to kind of ground him in that, no, don't consider that a waste.
Well, the reason it's really not a waste is my very first grown-up job was for the railroad. I worked for R.J. Corman. Rick kind of took me under his wing, and I investigated train accidents. It was the best job. But I will tell you, I obviously did not have a degrry in railroad. At that time, there wasn't one. Now I think Michigan offers it. But all they cared is that I had a degree because they simply wanted to see that I could learn, that I was willing to learn without the government forcing me to. And so it didn't matter what my degree was in. It just mattered I had one.
A super guy.
My favorite. I do miss him dearly. I know. I reminisced on stories of. He gave me my start. That's for sure. He did.
He died of cancer, did he?
He did. He did in 2013.
Yeah. And I kind of mourned a little bit because the dinner train down here, they recently, I guess last year, took the original engines that they had, 1940 and 41, and kind of made them kind of display pieces. And I understand that probably maintenance costs have continued, and they're beautiful engines. I mean, but to me, there was no better. And I took a lot of pictures over the years of during the fall of the dinner train on the tracks, various places. Beautiful. Yes. And just seeing 1940 and 1941 together and with the rest of the cars, it was just a awesome picture. And so it kind of mourned seeing them sitting as static displays. But of course the dinner train started. Oh gosh. Trying to think, has it been 30 years, 25 years? It's been, I can't remember, but it's been, I've got years and years of pictures. But anyway, I don't mean to spend our time talking about R.J. Corman. But he brought a wonderful operation to Bardstown.
Could not convince my grandmother. My early 20s, she thought for sure I worked on the dinner train. My mom would be like, no, she works for Rick in Nicholasville. She investigates train accidents. She does not work for the dinner train. It's owned by the same company. My grandmother, till the day she died, could have swore I worked on a dinner train. She wanted to go to the dinner train so she could see me. That's one thing I've never done. I've never been on the dinner train.
well, Rick was a tremendous entrepreneur. He really was. He saw a need and met it.
He did and made a lot of money doing it, but I will tell you, he was one of my favorite people. When I was in my early 20s, he gave me some phenomenal opportunities to just learn the railroad, learn how to operate trains. I actually became a certified locomotive engineer. That was not my job whatsoever, but I said, I just want to know how they do their job.
Sure.
He gave me that opportunity. He put me with one of his really good engineers to just teach me, and
that is
had to get all my hours in.
It's so awesome.
It was a good job, but
Well, I grew up with trains. I grew up in eastern Kentucky, and where it was, they had a roundhouse and.
okay, coal trains probably going.
Yeah, oh yeah, and my dad worked for the railroad all of his life, so I've got a special affection for railroads. And I think one of the worst things we ever did was to kill the passenger service of the trains that we had in Kentucky. And, they ripped up rails and we no longer have an affordable mass transit system in Kentucky. And we did before, because I could get on the train in Irvine and go to Lexington, and I went as a child. I didn't go with my, but we do our Christmas shopping, get on the train, and ride back to Irvine. Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
A lot of people did that. You can't do that now. The tracks are no longer there, and they're not. Or if they're there, they're only shipping coal.
Right. Well, of course, the rise of the individuals wanting driving automobiles, that really hurt.
It really did hurt, but it could have survived. There are enough people who don't have cars or who don't want to get on the road.
Right. Well,
I used to take the train all the time in Virginia up to D.C. Almost weekly. I would get on Amtrak and go from Roanoke to D.C. So.
Right.
Melanie, we're getting down to the wire here, and here we're talking about railroads, but that's a fascinating story. That you worked for R.J. Coleman.
Yeah, I did.
That's awesome.
Well, tell me, have you had any surprises? Since you hired on and doing this job, is there anything that has just, I didn't expect that kind of thing?
A water leak on my first day. But we got that resolved. I really spent the majority of this first few months just learning and absorbing and getting to know the team. Right. And so I think the surprise was how tight-knit that group is, and their heart for service and their heart for their own community. Mm-hmm. It's surprised in a good way. I absolutely love that group that we have. The volunteers, my staff, really just all come together as a team to support and love each other and their neighbors. And it is a beautiful sight to see. We're hand unloading pallets of food because our box truck went down within first couple of weeks, and so I said, everybody roll your sleeves up, everybody wear pants that day, let's go. We're all gonna hand, and everybody lined up and just started unloading food. And then, through that, one, we team built, but two, we were able to secure a new box truck, a couple weeks later. So thankfully we're back up and running and able to feed hungry bellies.
What do they just have a schedule? I will volunteer the second week of the month, or?
So we have a lot of people that really do just almost like a job. They come, this is their scheduled shift, and they show up for that very routinely throughout the week. And then we have other people that, hey, I'm available this time, or groups. We have groups, so we cross the gamut. We'll take you.
Okay, good. Now, do you coordinate all that?
So Lauren coordinates her volunteers over at the pantry. She's the manager of Bradford Life Food Pantry, running the kind of operations there. Luke is my store manager, and he coordinates the volunteers there.
Okay.
And I kind of,
kind of oversee
walk around
the whole thing.
Yeah, good job, guys. No, I'm just kidding. Okay.
That's good. That's great.
Melanie, we're getting down to the wire here. Do we have what's on your big wish list? I know that we're getting into the holiday season now. Is there a wish list of things you would like to either accomplish, or equipment needs, or that would really benefit St. Vincent de Paul's mission to work?
Well, I will say we stepped out in faith and got that box truck because, again, we had hungry bellies to feed, but that truck still needs to be paid for to an extent. So absolutely, that's a need to still cover the cost of that vehicle that we had no choice but to purchase. Coats, winter coats right now are going to be a huge need, and as we're going into holiday season, food for the food pantry always, so we can make sure that our shelves stay stocked so that people's homes stay full.
And I would assume that it's probably more useful that monetary donations allow you to help fill those shelves, and because I wouldn't know what to pull out of my pantry to to send.
And I'll be honest, Jim, we can buy a can apiece for significantly cheaper than you can.
Sure.
One, with our connections, and two, with just a bulk kind of putting together. So we put your small donation together with yours, Miss Margie, and with everybody else's in the community, and it gives us the opportunity to buy things at a lot more of a discount than you're going to be able to get in Kroger or Save a Lot. And so that's sometimes why the money makes a bigger difference.
Okay, well, that's good to know. That your monetary donation can make a much bigger bang for the buck than the can of yams we need to get rid of in the pantry.
And it's so important. I just want to note that those donations do stay right here locally. If you are donating, it does not go to Catholic Charities as a whole. It stays at St. Vincent de Paul, and it goes right back here to support your own neighbors and friends.
Well, I think that's really good to stress, because I think that there may be some confusion or fear of losing that the local donations are being diluted or moved.
Not one bit. In fact, I wish that I had a big corporation behind us that was able to funnel us money. We do not. We still very much need the local donations and the local support, because we are still run locally.
Right.
Okay. All right. Well, that's going to do it for this week's Bradford Brooks. So, Melanie, thank you so much for coming in.
Thanks for having me. Thank you.
We'll have to have you back again sometimes. All right. Well, Margie.
Let's see who we're having next week, and I will be able to tell you. Next week we are having Mr. Jerry James,
That's
who's
right.
going to talk about the Veterans Park.
That's right. All right. Well, we'll see you next week. Until then, everybody have a great week. Well, that's it for Bradford Brooks this week. See you next time.